Hi everyone, welcome back. I am really excited to be filming this video. I love talking about books. I read 30 books last year, that was my goal, and I literally finished it on December 31st, so I sprinted to the finish line. But I had some really amazing reads last year, and I kind of wanted to share them with you because I love watching these videos and I love hearing different people's perspectives on books, and these are kind of what I love and what my personal preferences and tastes are. So grab a cup of tea or a coffee, a snack, get cozy, settled in, or if you're in Australia, maybe sit by a fan or something. My 5-star reads are based purely on feeling. So for me, it's all about how I experience the book. If I find myself critiquing a book along the way, it's usually because I'm not really fully immersed in the world, and so I'm looking for reasons as to why. So for me, 5 stars are really all about just feeling completely consumed by the book and really in love with the story. And so they're really personal to me usually because, I don't think about anything other than like what is happening on the page. I also wanted to mention a couple of 4 stars, 4.5-star reads, books that I really enjoyed but didn't give me that feeling of just being totally enraptured by it, but still I think they're definitely worth the read. I will just say too, I know it must be really hard to write a book. The amount of time that goes into something like that is just incredible, and so these are just my personal opinions, and I think that's what's great about art, is just that you can have so many different opinions. I just want to acknowledge that it's really hard to write a book, and I think that authors should keep doing it. So anyways, let's get into some books. We'd start with my, I guess I'll say 4-star reads probably. This is in no particular order. I'm not organized enough for that. And honestly, I'm a little concerned with how I'm going to approach this because I really haven't thought about what I'm going to say before I say it. So this might take me a minute. But we're going to start off with Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I have read a lot of other Emily Henry books, which I have loved. Happy Place, Beach Read, I think they were both 5 stars for me. This one was really good, and I really enjoyed the premise of this book. I also really enjoyed the chemistry between the two characters, but it didn't hit quite the same way this time. And I know some people really loved this book and some people didn't. But I love her writing. I always feel like she captures something in the places that she's describing that feel really authentic and real, like she's really been to the places. And I always feel like the characters are really interesting and fun to read about, and she just does romance so well. So I would highly recommend reading this book anyways. It's a really great read for lounging by the pool, or especially in the summer. But so this one was fun. Next book I want to talk about is If It Makes You Happy. This book was really fun. I read this during the fall in Michigan, and honestly, the timing of reading this book during the fall is, I think, what contributed to my love of it, just because it gives Gilmore Girl vibes. The characters aren't necessarily Gilmore Girls, but that small town feel. It's quaint, it's charming, it's romanticized, it's set in the perfect time, it's during the 90s. And it just feels nostalgic and perfect for that time of year. I would highly recommend reading this during the fall because it feels like you're in the world, because everything happening around you feels reminiscent of this book. So it just feels really believable. And it's just cozy and it's nice and it's just a warm cup of tea. So if you're looking for just a rom-com that's full of charm, this is a good one. It's the stopping between every book that always feels so awkward. I'm do I just go straight to the next one, or do I take a break, Up next, Night and the Moth. This was actually a book club pick. I host a little book club here every month with a couple of girls, and we each get to pick a book. And this was my pick for kind of like the December time frame. Now, I've read Rachel Gillig's other books, One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, which I also really liked. This book was really interesting, like the premise. I always feel like she's very like into the whole concept. Like I feel like she really builds her worlds around like the system of magic or the system of like the politics of the book. Like I just feel like she invests a lot of time and energy into coming up with like a really original system, and I love that about her. I feel like what was missing a little for me in this book was maybe the romance. Like I always feel like with her books I love the world, but sometimes it's just something about the romance that misses a little bit for me. Her worlds are very symbolic and mystical and beautiful. I won't get too much into the plot because I really think you have to read it to understand it, but yeah, this was a really interesting read. So yeah, if you're looking for a new fantasy, maybe try this one. Okay, we're actually onto the 5-star reads now. I think that's all my honorable mentions. Is there anything else I want to talk about? No, I don't think so. Okay, let's move on. Oh my gosh, I loved this book, One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. This was something I read during the summer, and it's technically a standalone, but my personal opinion is that you should read Every Summer After, because if you like the characters in that book, it does focus on one of them in this book, and I feel like it gives so much more context and meaning to the story. Some people might disagree with me, but I feel like it really enhanced my reading knowing the story prior to this. The book is about Charlie and Alice. Alice comes to like a summer cottage that she used to come to as a kid. She creates this list of bucket list items that she wants to do and kind of relive her youth a little bit, and he agrees to do it with her. And just the banter in this book and the chemistry, it was so fun but real at the same time. Maybe you could say that there were cheesy moments, but it didn't really feel like that to me. It felt like these were real people that really did exist and that this was a part of their story, and I just really liked their dynamic. I think it's easy in a romance to kind of lose sight of like some of the depth maybe to these people, and I feel like this book had depth. Like I felt like, especially if you read Every Summer After, the characters are both struggling with things, form this connection and this bond, and help each other learn more about themselves. So yeah, this was a really fun read, and I would really recommend it, and I would recommend reading it after Every Summer After. So good. Okay. Oh my gosh, it's so exciting talking about books that you love. I don't know what it is, just the feeling of a good story. There's nothing better. Like the world of a book, living in that, because you live in it for so long while you're reading it, and so when it ends, it's impactful, you know? Okay, this leads me to Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and then Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. I know some people maybe don't like this book, but I loved it. I could go on and on about these books. I honestly, you know what's funny is I didn't know if I would enjoy this book. This was another book club pick, and I didn't know if I would like it because the way that people have described it is like a cozy fantasy. So in my mind, that kind of meant like not a lot of action, like very slow paced. And while there are elements of coziness to this book, there is so much action in these like novels. They are filled with so much intensity and scariness and also magic. Like, so for those of you who don't know, it's basically about Emily Wilde. She's writing an encyclopedia of fairies. In the first book, she goes to this foreign land and she's there to continue on her research. And she's joined by Wendell, who is a colleague from their university, and so he kind of interrupts her trip and wants to help her with her research for his own sort of benefit. And the town has been suffering from the loss of people because the Fae keep coming in and like snatching people, which is a little unusual. And so they kind of go on a couple of different journeys while they're researching, but a lot of the plot is based on her sort of like trying to help the town in getting their people back. what's so great about this book is that I feel like these characters are really honest, and I don't know that I've really read, especially in like a fantasy land, characters that are so flawed but so honest about it. And I love that these characters especially, there's like no judgment really between them, in the sense that like they accept each other for who they are, even in their misgivings, I guess, or in their like pitfalls. And the way especially Wendell is written, he's such an interesting character because he's like a male lead that has all of these interesting quirks and flaws, and he's really strong, but he's also very comical and very like particular. Like maybe if you were only reading the first like couple of pages, it would be difficult to get into because it is written kind of like a research journal, and so you have to get past the analytical part of it. But really, I think these books are super entertaining. The characters are really unique to me, and I feel like they deal with fairies in a way that honors like kind of the darkness of it, but also the kind of fun and like puckness to them. And I liked both. Like both books felt really like a continuation of the story, but very different, and I feel like we learned a lot more about the characters, and I'm excited to read the third. That's on my list, on my TBR, I guess, for this year. So yeah, I love these. I was sad to finish these books, you know, like I binged them, and it's like, you know, when you're reading a really good book and you know how good it is, that you'll be sad at the end of it, and so you like almost delay how quickly you read it because you don't want to leave the world yet. That's how I felt with these. Also, these are the Australian covers, which my little sister bought for me in Australia, and I love them so much more than the American covers. Like, they are so pretty. Anyways, so again, in the world of fantasy, we have Shield of Sparrows. This one, again, was a book club pick. How many of these are book club picks? This was a book club pick from, actually, these were all book club picks. Because I go to a book club here in Michigan as well that is not what I run, and I think these three were from there, and then these were all for my book club, except for this one, I guess. This is the only one that I picked up. That's so interesting. How funny. I really would recommend starting a book club, even if you only have one other friend, and like letting everybody pick a different book, because I have read so many books that I feel like I wouldn't have picked up on my own that I have loved. So it's really, I think it's really fun when you get to read something that you didn't anticipate even liking. Okay, anyway, Shield of Sparrows. This one was so fun. It deals with monsters. There's like a complex political scene. There's twists and turns, and what I liked about this book a lot was that I felt like it focused mostly on plot, and it had like an undercurrent of romance, and I felt like the romance didn't overtake, and it felt very like organic. Like it felt like it came up naturally through the plot. Sometimes I feel like in fantasy books it feels like the plot and the romance are either really separate from each other, or it feels like the romance has become the central focus, so much so that it doesn't really feel like the stakes matter anymore, and then I feel like it falls flat, because I don't know, what I love about fantasy is that usually there's like an adventure aspect to it. Sometimes in fantasy books it can be really predictable, like what's going to happen at the end, and from memory I don't believe that I knew what was really coming at the end of this, and it also left me kind of wondering like what else there was to be revealed. I mean, that's obviously part of the draw of fantasy books, is like usually it leads to a second chapter of the story, so leaving on a cliffhanger is an important part of it. But I felt like this one had left me feeling like there were so many things I was like still questioning about, like what that meant. Such a good time. Like honestly, just such a good time. Like thrilling and adventurous, and the romance was like just the right amount. Stakes were high in this, real stakes, I feel like. And I'm excited to see where this journey continues. I feel like it's really hard sometimes, especially in like the first book, to set a good pace for the plot, because you're setting so much of the world up, and it's hard not to get too bogged down in just all the details of something. And I think this did a really amazing job of like unraveling the story as it went along and feeling very digestible. So yeah, I would highly recommend if you're looking for a fun fantasy read. The next book I want to talk about is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. I don't have my copy with me because someone is borrowing it, but it was another book club pick, and I really didn't know anything about it before I went into it, which is the case for most books I read. I never really like to read a blurb or even watch a trailer for a movie because I like to receive the story like how it was meant to be told, and sometimes I just feel like if I read a blurb or watch a movie, it kind of spoils part of that. I loved Hamnet. It is about Shakespeare's son who passed away, and it's kind of a reimagining of the circumstances surrounding that, because I don't think that people know too much about why he passed. It's told through the lens of Agnes, or Agnes, who is Shakespeare's wife. Agnes is such an interesting character, especially to see her perspective on the world, because she's a little bit mystical. She's sort of an outcast. She is very fierce and very loyal. She's very attuned to the world around her, and she has this ability to know someone's life by touching their hand and squeezing between their thumb. And so the town sort of considers her a bit of a witch, but she's really just someone who is very attuned to her surroundings and is able to observe the world in such a thoughtful and meaningful way. Because of that, the story feels so much less about Shakespeare the writer and so much more about Shakespeare the person. Like, he feels so three-dimensional in this, and I don't know that I've ever seen a piece of work that makes him feel so human and so like relatable, I feel like, for people. Like, he really wasn't the center of the story when you're reading the book. You can see how Hamlet was inspired maybe by this event, and in that way it's very interesting because it feels like you just gain so much more perspective, I guess, on the play. If you do have an interest in Shakespeare, there's that element to it, but it really is just a story about a family living during the time of the plague where, you know, no one's life was guaranteed and there was so much fear. It deals with grief, it deals with loss and the hardships people faced, the sacrifices that they had to make. There's so much beauty in those moments of real love for one another. Now, we did go and see the movie as well after the book, which I feel like is also a really like beautiful adaptation of this story. I always say, like, I think the book, you just get so much more of the world in it. If you're planning to see the movie, maybe reading the book prior to, because I think it will enhance your experience of it. I feel like the film did focus a little more on Shakespeare. Like, he was definitely more prevalent part in my experience in the film than he was in the book. But there was one moment in the film that I loved when he says the line, "To be or not to be, that is the question." I feel like that line is such a important line in Shakespeare. That moment really, it became clear to me like how much of his life was imbued in his work. And it just made complete and utter sense to me, and a line that is so short can be so profound, you know. I would highly recommend reading Hamlet. It's touching and moving for a reason, and that is because it is dealing with difficult topics, hard moments in life. Okay, last but not least is Tom Lake by Anne Patchett. This one caught me by surprise, to be honest. I didn't know anything going into this book, and this one was just so weirdly personal. You know, you see some stories or you read some stories where you feel like really seen by them or understood by them, and I feel like this was that book for me. Like, I felt like part of my life was in this story. It's really a story about love, it's about dreams, it's about knowing yourself, it's about discovering yourself, it's about how things change, you know, as you get older and what you want changes. It's also just a beautiful story about reflection and time spent on the earth. It's a snippet of someone's life, you know. It's not a story that has great highs or great lows. It's a story about someone's lived experience, and it feels really real. It feels like it's almost like a memoir in a way. If you're a female actor in particular, I feel like this book really captures a lot of what that experience is like. And for me, it just really hit home. Also, I mean, how can you not think of Chekhov and the Cherry Orchard when you read this as well? You know, the writing of it was just so beautiful. Really quickly, because my camera is going to die, I just wanted to also mention Wild Dark Shore because it was a Kindle read and it was one of my honorable mentions. Dang, how do I get this to frickin' turn on? This one was really intense, but also very thought-provoking. If you want something that's gonna like ask more questions than have answers, this is the book for you. It was really intense. There's a mystery element to it, but it deals a lot with family dynamics, with grief, with the environment. A very like honest look at the world, I think. So yeah, if you want something that is going to spark conversation and thought, this is a really good pick. But yeah, these are all the books. I think there were 6 books including Hamnet that were my 5 stars, and then the rest, if people are interested in monthly reviews, I can do that. I think I've read like 5 books this month, which is like a record for me. But it's easier to remember books when you read them and review them quickly rather than like at the end of the year. This is my noodle bear. You come to say hello to everybody? Say hi. You've been a good boy today, haven't you? Anyways, that's all. I'm done talking for now. I've talked way more than one should in this amount of time. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being interested in books. And oh yeah, I'm tired too, bro. I'm tired too. Anyways, I will see you guys next week. Let me know what you want to see from me. Mwah.